Everyone, welcome back to 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Brian.
And I'm Nick.
And today we are sailing the seven seas down to Tortuga because we are diving into the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. And we got Ian back in the studio to help us discuss this movie.
No way.
Yeah.
But before we talk about it, I think we all have to agree to parlay.
Parlay.
Ballet.
Parlay. So if everyone listening, give me an aye if you agree to parlay.
Aye.
Aye.
Well, I mean, they're more guidelines than actual rules. But
That is true, but they take it to heart, those pirates. And I want to say I watched all three of these movies in the last day and a half. And what a ride.
that is a marathon. Wow.
It is.
I took a break in the middle because I didn't want to spend a whole day watching Pirates 1 and 3 because I watched number 2 first because I recently, like maybe 8 months ago, watched Pirates of the Caribbean 1, but I needed to watch all 3 just to be fresh.
For sure.
But what a ride.
It is just like the ride at the Disney parks.
The inspiration for it all.
I can't believe these movies, as much as, because we just talked about Harry Potter last summer, and I forgot how iconic these movies were.
Yeah.
They were so huge when they came out.
I think the soundtrack, as much as Harry Potter has its jingle, this soundtrack is probably one of the top 5 of all time. Hans Zimmer, this soundtrack was so good, Nick. We did it in 8th grade for music class. For
That's
like,
right, we did.
For like we went to like Wonderland and the University of Windsor
That's
to perform.
right.
And when we dropped this banger, no one even expected it.
Nope.
Our teacher came in one day and he was like, "We're going to do Pirates of the Caribbean." And I think everybody lost it.
Yep. Slaps the sheet music down. And we're like,
We had me and Brandon, we had 2 drums going at the same time.
and there were the timpanis too.
Yeah.
the big
Like
ones,
we had a full orchestra going.
It was amazing.
Full media orchestra.
Yeah. I think it's the most hype track that you can get.
Yeah, it really has that energy. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other great tracks throughout the movie.
And I forgot about a
Jack's
couple
theme.
of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Jack's theme in the movie. And then there's like I wouldn't call it the Pirates theme, but it's very Pirates theme adjacent. It has the same vibe, but it's like whenever he's in danger or something.
Is it like the action one? It's like a little bit like springier. That
Yes.
one?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is very... Yeah, it's got a lot of the same sort of feel as the main bombastic one. Just like they took it and turned it into a bit of a springboard.
Yeah. Another one I love. It's so simple, but it's Calypso's jingle from the music box that Davy Jones has.
I love it.
I love it. And when I was watching the DVD, when you bring up the menu, that was the jingle for number 3. And I was like, let me just let this sit here for 5 to 10 minutes because it's beautiful.
Now, what was your guys' first interaction with Pirates? Did you guys see the first one in theaters?
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
No,
I don't
did.
remember if I saw it in theaters. I might have.
I was terrified because
Yeah.
when did it come out? What year was
2003.
2003? Okay, so we were 10. Oh,
Yeah.
Brian, you and I were 10.
That's pretty young to see that first movie.
Yeah, I saw
There's
it in
some stuff in
theaters.
there. Yeah.
I vividly remember coming home and it was like a foggy night. And I thought,
And you're waiting for the skeletons to come out.
but since then, it has just been a staple for me. Like I can rewatch those movies pretty much once a year still.
Yeah.
Even the third one, even though it's 3 hours long.
Yeah,
Which, I
watched
mean,
it this-
nowadays, 3 hours is nothing.
it's
just a
commonplace
normal
for
movie,
sure.
yeah.
I watched it this morning and forgot how long it was. I thought, oh, okay, good thing I got up super early.
I also forgot because when I was looking up the times for the other movies, the first one's 2 hours and 22, which is basically standard for at that time.
Yep.
And then the second one was 2.5. And I was like, okay, the third one can't be much longer. Add another 20 minutes onto that.
Exactly.
It's a lot.
But I watched the second one first before the first one. And I think that was a cool way to watch it because during the first movie, I was noticing a lot of hints and teasers towards the second movie. Like they were bringing up Bootstrap Bill a lot. And then they said there was a point in the middle of the movie where they mentioned that he went down to Davy Jones' locker. And I was like, oh, they're setting things up for other movies that movies today wouldn't dare to even bother. Like the script they've had plans Like they must have done the script all at once because I mean, movies 2 and 3 they filmed
Or they
back to
just
back.
had really good writers who
That's
right.
true.
set things up and like you, because a lot of people can do that sort of mystery box sort of set up these cool ideas. The problem is
Yep.
being able to pay them off.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And they
even
just
the
were able
compass
to actually pay them off. Yeah, the compass.
Yep.
wasn't much of a. It was just like a passing by. How
It's
what
a
do you use?
throwaway item.
Yeah, it's a throwaway item, but it became so important. And even Jack's pendant on his headband
Exactly.
in the third movie was
his piece of 8.
9 pieces of 8 is one of the coolest things.
I know.
It makes literally no sense, but you
Yeah.
wouldn't call it the 8 pieces of 8. 9
No,
pieces of
they're-
8 sounds
It's a
so much
pirate thing,
cooler.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a pirate thing. It's so cool. And the joke they made, well, we wouldn't call it the 9 pieces of whatever we had on at the time. You know,
Yeah, I really liked that a lot of the mundane things about what we would associate with pirates became integral to the stories. Just the passing comment of Davy Jones' locker.
Yeah, which
like you said, the
it could just
compass,
be a write-off in the first movie as a generic phrase, but
right.
in their world, it literally is Davy Jones' locker. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
which is cool because coming from the second to the first, there's so much world building. They did so much world building in that first movie that you didn't even know about because you wouldn't have thought that way going and watching it in order, right?
Right.
So watching it backwards, you can really see how much effort they put into making that script solid. Besides Jack Sparrow, I think one of the most exciting elements of the movies are the fight scenes because of how slapstick and they took Jackie Chan's films and they
that
brought it to a
style
modern
of-
audience.
and a different genre because it wasn't the sword fighting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which, this does have some of the traditional like punch and all that, but it was,
Because they used a lot of stuff in their environment.
Yes.
Amongst them jumping around and especially in the first movie, Jack and Will's first fight.
that very first one,
loved
I
that
remember
first fight.
being blown away watching that because that was, again, we were pretty young. That was one of the first times that I'd seen and that kind of level of involvement, like especially coming off of my other main comparison with Star Wars, which I'm like, these are epic lightsaber fights, but it doesn't incorporate any of the environment in the same way. It's just straight up just dueling, flipping, that kind of stuff.
And the dueling was so well done.
It was. And even with the choreography for the music,
Yeah.
timing with it.
Yes. Yeah. That, especially that first fight. Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, Will Turner. We always, Justin and me, he was my old neighbor, but we made fun of that scene at the beginning of the movie when young Elizabeth meets Will Turner and he wakes up, Will Turner, and then he just passes out. Good thing that's the only line that kid had because he did not deliver that whatsoever.
No more speaking lines for you.
But he was coming off of Legolas, so he was ready to go.
Which I didn't realize at first that he was a star at that point. I was thinking retroactively that he was an unknown Keira Knightley, but no, he was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Keira Knightley was also big at the time, which is why they casted her.
I didn't
also-
know she'd done a lot before that.
She did a couple films. They were like side films, but she was
okay.
also Padme's.
Yeah, but that was
doppelganger.
it was a half-second role.
Yeah. She
was
did another
completely
movie. I'm not sure if it
uncredited.
was before or after, but she did Bend It Like Beckham. It was a soccer movie.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I think maybe that was 2001, 2002, but it could
And
have been
then
after,
there was-
but I'm not really sure.
There's also Pride and Prejudice,
Yeah.
I think, as well. That was another huge role for her.
But she was only 17 when she was cast for this.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Wild. And Will Turner, Orlando Bloom,
Bloom.
what a god he is. Let me tell you, what a man. But coming from Lord of the Rings, he was maybe 20 years old from Lord of the Rings, but he was 24, 25 when they started filming.
And I think the transition that we see of them throughout the movies, throughout their stories, it's really cool to go from, Elizabeth Swann's proper, ladylike tendencies to she's a pirate captain at the end.
Because as much as it is Jack Sparrow's story and Will Turner, I feel like it is her story as well. She's I think more of a main character than
She's the one who has
Jack
the
is.
most changes throughout.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that lends itself to the greatness of the storytelling, like Ian said. How hard is it for people to write a one main character movie, let alone
nowadays
three people?
Yeah, and balance them. There's 5 main characters by
Well, yeah, because we have Barbosa.
Yeah. Davy Jones.
Yeah, Lord Beckett even is like a pretty heavy character in there.
But I think the thing that sets apart these movies from anything today is how well they blended practical effects and sets with CGI.
And that's the main thing, is that I think that they blended it. You can't, you need both to really sell that world and that realism.
One was not a crux for the other.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, we'll just fix this in CG. Oh no, we don't want to use any CG. We're going to do it all practical, even if it doesn't look like authentic. It's that embracing both and really, really just trying to make it look as good as you can.
Because I believe they built all the boats. Because they were filming on every boat.
Yeah.
Besides some of the wide shots on the sea, I'm pretty sure, which aided into the parts where they would cut to a wide shot, back to the crew, back to anything. They must have been, I don't know how any of them didn't get sick, because they were soaking wet every single film on these ships.
That was even one thing I noticed with the water, because I was watching. There's so much just ambient, like they have like water splashing and spraying, and it just adds that immersion to the scene. It's like, okay, this, whether it's CG or real, it doesn't matter, because it feels like that's what would be happening if you're on a boat and there's an attack coming. It's going to be splashing and spraying all over the place, like.
I like the parts when the ships were under attack and somebody was below deck and the water was spraying in and hitting them. It felt so claustrophobic and well done. I thought, oh yeah, this is not a place I'd want to be. Even when Will was trapped under, I think was that the first movie or the second movie?
No, that was that was the first movie, because he was going to get the coin, the medallion.
He was getting the medallion. That's right.
Yes.
And that just felt, that was such a good scene to me, because one of my biggest fears is like drowning. So I thought they did such a good job with the tension of it, him being super helpless, and it felt very real. I mean, he was in water, but and that's when you use practical. That's when you say, okay, we got to step away from throwing CG at the wall here. Let's get a big tank and put our actor in there.
And I'm sure there was like a lot of CG used in the first movie that we didn't notice. But majority of the time, it was all real stuff. Anytime the actors were present, it was definitely a real set they had made. Which, like, back to what I said, that it definitely aids in your immersion and believing the world.
And being able to watch a movie right now from 2003 and not be taken out by how bad it looks.
Yeah. Movies today don't look as good as they did.
No.
Davy Jones, we always say that's like the pinnacle of CG.
I gotta say, I watched the first two with Brie, and she asked, how long did it take to put him in the costume? I said, my dear, great question. That's all CG.
That's about as high a praise as you can have.
And I'm like, I get it.
He's in a gray mocap suit.
That's why I was like, he's in a gray suit with little balls on his whole body.
Yeah.
And she said, no,
I think they did add a little bit to his
his nose. I think it was more just for coloring.
Yeah.
But it's in crazy, like what I was trying to look a little bit when I watched it this time. You can tell it's Bill Nighy. If you know what he looks like, you can tell it's him, which is just incredible, because it's this monstrous creature. But it's him.
There was a scene. I mean, every single one of his scenes in the second movie, but I paused it to go upstairs to get a drink. And when I paused it, I was watching it with Adria. I was like, look at this shot. It was a freeze frame of Davy Jones. And I said, how on earth could you get a still frame that looks like this mid-pause? That's not like a still they put out.
Motion. It's just, that's how crisp every frame was.
The lighting was immaculate on him. And what's even crazier is anytime he was around, it was raining. You had effects on top of him.
But you have to put all that on.
Yeah. And then his tentacles are constantly moving, adding to... I don't even know. It's one of life's greatest mysteries of how they managed to pull off Davy Jones.
I did watch some like little featurettes just like incidentally not that long ago, and it was with some of the effects guys, and they were just talking about how they made a point of doing that kind of stuff, like moving the little tentacles or changing the lighting to try and accentuate what they could do best. So like it adds that part of your mind where you're not even thinking about it, but by seeing the stuff moving, it makes it feel more real, without you having to, like, you don't focus so much on the stuff that might not look real. And then all that kind of, the entire thing makes it seem legit.
Because even when he was in the third movie, when he goes to talk to Calypso and he's in the under cabin of the ship, and there's that lighting that comes in and he walks through the different beams of light.
Oh yeah.
And when she touches him, he transforms back into the pirate.
Yeah.
It was such a seamless blend, because how they did his beard, it blended right back into how his face looks as an octopus.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Immaculate. I don't think I've ever been that impressed with CG, like a CG character.
Yeah,
I told
like,
Adrian, I was like, he looks better than Thanos.
He does. And Thanos looks amazing. When you look at him, you're like, that's a real creature. Like, you don't think for a second when you're watching Infinity War that, oh, that's just like a made up thing. It's like, okay, he's a real actor. I believe it. But then, you look at Davy Jones and it's like, well, he's real. They filmed a squid.
Yeah. Because I'm like, Thanos has 2019 technology. Davy Jones had 2005.
Unreal.
The only thing I would say about number 3 is because it's so long and they spent like an hour and 40 minutes building that world even more and going through the politics in the war. Davy Jones felt like a side character for half of that movie.
Yeah.
Compared to how amazing and integral he was in the second movie.
I agree.
And he takes a while to show up in the second movie too. I forgot. I'm thinking he's there but no, it's like an hour in before you see him.
Because they wanted to build that like mystery and suspense around him, the fear building up for all the characters.
Because Adrian and I looked at each other, we were like, we don't remember the beginning of this movie at all.
I thought the beginning of it happened in the middle. Like, I remembered all that stuff, but I'm like, they had to have met Davy Jones way earlier.
Do you guys think they could have, I mean, it was a way to like get other characters involved, but take the scene of Will going to Jack on that island and that whole, him ruling that tribe.
That entire part could have been cut.
They could have cut that out.
They could have,
like it was
they
15
could have,
minutes
or they
of
could have
nothing.
made it literally just like the end part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
They could have just had him show up and had Jack running away from the tribe, and that would have really had the same effect. It was all just for that kind of slapstick comedy that they wanted to add in.
Because the movie could have flown if that scene wasn't in there.
Yeah.
Because we could have had the scene, like the whole beginning play out as normal, and then Will say he's going to find Jack, and then cut to that scene of him getting on the island, and then having, like Ian said, everybody running away from.
And they'd already been doing that bit of
minutes.
montage thing. Like, he talked to somebody from Singapore, cut. Talked to somebody in Jamaica, cut. Talked to somebody, cut. He lands on this island, and then Jack's running. He's like, oh, I found him. Like,
right. Yeah. That kind of would have added to the humor of it too, I think. And it leaves us kind of thinking about the mystery of like, who are these people?
Yeah. What did he do to piss them off? Like,
exactly. Because we expect it of him to piss off a group of people, if not a single person. Right.
It's just so in character. It almost, it could have been like the beginning of Indy, when he steals the idol and then they're all chasing him. You don't know any of that backstory. He's just trying to get to the plane because he's being chased. And
exactly.
And we've talked about this before in other movies where you show and not tell. They did a lot of showing, but they also did a lot of telling.
Yeah.
But in the most creative way possible, because I think it has like the stuff about how Jack got off the island. There's a lot of myth, right? When the pirates speak. So when we're like, well, why don't we see that? Because none of it is true. Yeah. It's like how stories are passed down. So they didn't really have to show us, because when we finally got to the island with him and Elizabeth Swann, she finds out it was all a lie, and he got picked up a day later because the rum traders.
We're here, yeah.
So
it was just a random fluke, and
they do that a lot in all the movies where they're telling the audience stories, but we don't necessarily need to see them because they're folk tales, and they're like how they talk about Davy Jones.
Yeah.
Right. He eventually shows up, but all the stories of the depths of Davy Jones' locker and how he's someone you don't want to see, and he's a myth, and that kind of thing. Same with Jack Sparrow being like, sometimes he even, are you alive? Like, how are you alive? I heard you were dead. Everything is all a myth in pirate language.
And that's the funny thing about Jack. I feel like every legend or tall tale that's told about other characters is fulfilled. All of the ones about him are not as they seem.
No, he's
truly like the legend or the myth compared to everything else. Everything else is actually real in this world. He's the one that's elusive, and yeah, he actually cheated death. He's back from the dead. Back from, sorry, Davy Jones' locker.
Yeah.
The dead is relatively easy according to Teodalma, as long as they have the body.
Yeah. But I want to get into some of the character moments in the first movie because it's subtle. How they introduce Jack, I think, is one of the most creative, iconic ways a character could show up, because he's sitting in his little boat, which is how they end the trilogy.
Yeah.
By the way, he's on a little dinghy boat.
Yep.
And it's sinking, and he's shoveling water out of it with this bucket. But he only does it once because he's like, "What's the point of this?"
Yeah, it's going down.
And then the scene of him riding up, like you get an iconic shot on the
which
mast.
you would think is he's doing something heroic, and really he's
and they cut
sinking
out and
his
he's
ship.
sinking, and it really pays into he doesn't plan anything. He's all luck.
It's all
and he just plays it off like he meant to do that. They do that this whole movie where there was one point, one of the Commodore Norton's side guy, he was like, he really does plan that out, doesn't he? They play into the bit where
because it's like, such a fantastic series of interconnected things that happens to work exactly as it should. And it's like, it has to be a mastermind.
Yeah.
No, although that guy,
I do think the second movie went a little too hardcore with him and his luck. Especially with the scene we were talking about, he fell 3,000 feet in the air.
That whole
with
part
the
where
spike on his back,
falling through all the bridges. I looked at it, I was like, he would have been dead. I'm sorry, this
he splatted.
They went a little too overboard with his
even just the fact that they threw 10,000 fruits and they happened to all get stuck on the thing. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's playful and fun, but him
that
dying,
was just
yeah. And I think it made sense in the first one when he had the medallion, right?
Yeah.
Anything could probably happen to him and he'd bounce back and be fine. But this one, we don't have that same crux.
He's actually cursed to be killed. So
exactly,
if anything, it's worse.
Right. So you think he'd be more, you'd think he'd be more careful about
knowing that
around.
Anything could be his end.
Which I think it would have aided to just have him running away from, like how we talked about. Just cut that whole tribe section out and make this movie 2 hours and 20 minutes.
You can make a super cut.
Make it seamless, super cut.
You can cut that whole part.
Yeah, I'll re-edit it, guys. We'll rewatch. But Will Turner, I don't know if you guys spotted this in the first movie, but this was also another character moment when he delivers the sword. And
like at the beginning.
Elizabeth's father says, "Oh, please
send my regards to your master.
My compliments to your master." The whole series, people underestimate Will Turner. Yeah. And I think that very line, because at the end of the movie, we get that full circle moment where they say to him, whoever made this sword must have
incredible
skill and care into what they're doing. So like they're nodding to that they know Will actually made the sword. Yeah. He's the man that he was at the beginning of the movie, but they just didn't realize it because he's a blacksmith. He's a nobody to the rich.
He's a blacksmith assistant even.
Yeah. Right.
But essentially, I think he is the blacksmith because the other guy, he's constantly
he's just he's the one who does all the work, and the blacksmith gets all the credit at that point.
Yeah.
Just like when he arrests Jack and they thank the drunk blacksmith for just doing his civic duty.
So good.
The special effects in the first movie, I still think hold up. There's some touch and go moments, but I do think I love the scene in the prison after Elizabeth falls into the water and the medallion activates.
Yeah.
Which is the same way Davy Jones gets activated, like the Kraken that pulls through the water.
Yeah.
When the pirate shoves his hand through
and
the cell and you get the moonlight on him. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. I also thought even the full introduction to the skeletons on the Black Pearl.
The part with Barbosa, that was so
when he does
done.
the full reveal.
Yes, that was so good.
It has that very, like some of they're all looking at the camera. It's very much for the audience too. It's very theatrical. And I think that just kind of sells it that this is something very otherworldly that's trying to peek through.
And even that the theatricality played to the character, like he was trying to put on a show to scare her.
Exactly. I love how he laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The because he fakes like he's trying to poison her, right?
Yes.
Because she's there for dinner. But when he first steps out, the lip sync on the skeletons is so good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like again, I don't know how they did any of this.
They
Davy Jones is a
cared.
massive step
They
up
had
from
time
the
and they
skeletons.
cared. But yeah,
Yeah, they definitely had the time.
retroactively, they don't seem as good because Davy Jones is so amazing. But
Yeah.
they are still really impressive.
I think it has to do with the amount of movies that required those companies for special effects. Like there was maybe two movies a year that required
Yeah.
that amount, and
Yeah.
you got their full attention. Whereas
Like
now,
ILM can still do amazing work. It's just now ILM is working on, like you said, they have 50 movies in the pipeline.
and they have 2 weeks to do a shot. Like,
And they don't, and they only do shots necessarily. They don't necessarily do the entire thing
yeah,
because they have one company do this and one that. And before ILM, you're doing effects for this whole movie. Your entire studio was working on just this movie for this year. Like,
which I think actually would aid the company because they could reference their own shots and bring their own assets into other shots to help blend it all together. Whereas everyone else, they kind of share assets and email back and forth to make sure everything is correct.
but you don't have the same people doing the same techniques, like for that consistency.
That was exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, if everybody's on the exact same page and there's no hiccups or no changes in communication like telephone, then you're going to have just consistency all the way through.
Now, correct. I just want to clarify this point. The ending when Jack steals a piece of the gold,
Yes.
did they make that assumption where he's never stolen anything because he wasn't officially an undead before, right? Only
He
when
got
he
kicked
stole it
off.
from, right.
Yeah, so I was trying to pay attention to this the first time because when I watched it a bunch as a kid, I didn't really figure the plot through, and I really wanted to figure it out. So it's because he got marooned or mutinied on the way to get the treasure, but he never got there.
Yeah.
And then after, in their greed, they kicked him off. They took the treasure and realized, but he wanted it in the first place, but he never got there. So yeah, this was his first time stealing it,
which then made him invincible.
Yeah, but for the purpose of being able to defeat Barbossa.
Yeah, but I think it was clever because he did that in a sneaky way to save Will.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, which cuts to that core of the character that they always come back to. It's like, yeah, he's a scoundrel. He's looking out for himself. He does bad things, but he always tries to do the right thing, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a good person is what they really come down
he's
to.
a good man.
Good man.
As he shudders at the thought of that statement.
Now, here's a controversial thing. The scene when him and Will escape in the canoe, is that even possible?
No, it's not.
Okay, that's what I thought.
No, I've seen people talk about, it's the way that physics works. That would not happen. Either they would not get the boat down there because the air is keeping them afloat, or the air would escape and then they would sink, but then they couldn't breathe.
Yeah, because I know when divers do that kind of stuff, they have those air pockets they can go up to, those balloons, but those are made down there, right? And they can go up and get the fresh air and come back
theory
down.
could work, but they would never get the boat to the bottom. The air would keep the boat like maybe half a foot below the water. They would have to weigh thousands of pounds to be able to bring it down that low.
But
it was a cool scene.
It was.
It still worked. It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, for the purposes of the movie, very clever. Gives you something visually to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's undead pirate skeletons, so you suspend a bit of the disbelief.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite shots is the shot of all the pirates walking underwater.
Oh, through the
that
gloom.
one's so
Yeah, to go fight the Commodore.
Yeah.
It's amazing because they're all humans, but then they turn when the moon hits them.
Exactly.
Oh, it's an amazing shot. Amazing shot.
Did either of you ever go to Disney?
Nope.
I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. Because as we all know, the movie is based on the ride in Disneyland and Disney World,
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Who came up with this?
When the
whole
Pirates of the
entire-
Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
Yeah. They're like, let's take this basic, simple ride and turn it into, a masterpiece of a script.
One of the most impressive examples of building an IP.
Exactly.
It wasn't really an IP. It was just an idea. And they created these impressive characters out of nothing that became iconic.
I really don't think that there's been another theme park attraction to movie concept that's been done as well. Because I mean, we have
They've
now.
tried.
Yeah, they've tried. We have the Jungle Cruise now. We've had Haunted Mansion, two of them.
Twice.
Yeah. So, and they're just, I don't feel like they capture the same sense of adventure as Pirates does from the ride. Because I've been on that ride many times at Disneyland and Disney World, just Disneyland once. But you get it. Like if you go on it, you're like, that was exhilarating, even though it's literally a boat ride for like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But the way you're immersed in the port scene with the auction and the gunfighting, and you see the pirate ships. Now, once they did the movies, they did incorporate characters
Sure,
from,
they would have, yeah.
from the movie into the ride. So you see,
That's what
like
I was
Davy
going to
Jones.
ask. Like,
Yeah.
did you go after the movies or before?
I went before and after.
Did you ever see Johnny Depp? Because he
yes.
casually goes. You saw him?
Oh, sorry,
Really?
him? No, in person. No,
Oh,
I have
no,
not. I have not.
no.
I've seen.
That's
I
really
see
cool.
his. I know. I've seen his like
Character.
mannequin pop up. He's in a barrel sometimes. But then there's this one scene. He's sitting on a throne kind of chair in a like a pirate grotto on a bunch of gold, and I'm like, that's
cool.
so cool.
Because he occasionally goes to Disney World to dress up as Jack to do the ride.
That's
to surprise
amazing.
people who go on. There was a clip they released before it was like maybe 10 years ago he did, and people were losing their minds because he's like, he would stand there frozen, then he'd be like, oi, and he'd start moving, and he'd do his whole shtick.
That is so
Yeah,
cool.
That's cool. It's really cool when the actors do that kind of stuff. Like that reminds me of like when Downey will do like the in-character stuff for like sick kids or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's
Jack
cool
has
when
done
they'll
that
do
as well. Jack.
Yeah.
Johnny
yeah.
Depp's done
Johnny
that.
Depp. Well, he is Jack when
He
he's
is
doing
Jack,
that.
though,
He's-
yeah.
I think that's one of the few characters that you don't want to replace. You kind of know
You
that's him.
couldn't.
And
No.
yeah.
I don't think they should ever retouch this at all because
Nope.
even
No.
the way he runs is iconic.
The Sparrow run, yeah.
If you can silhouette a character and you know it's him immediately.
Because even Will makes fun of it in the movie.
Oh yeah, he's just like
He's like, when did he start doing all the, And he's like, oh, that's always been there. But there's a shot of Barbossa in this movie that I don't know if you guys spotted it, but it's when they're under fire, they're attacking each other's boats, and the mast falls down, and he's casually walking with Jack the monkey.
I know what you. Yep.
And he walks in front of it, and he just lets it fall, and it goes right around him. It's the most badass shot of Barbossa in the movie. He's just like, yep, I know I'm this kind of guy.
I think in most other movies there would be it would be a different angle, but in this one you see the mast coming down. It kind of falls in front of the camera, and then he's just on the other side of it. But we're like, oh, that's a power move right there.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting how they decided to film that rather than framing him right in the center of the opening. But it was still, I still loved that shot.
I think, honestly, if we're talking about favorite characters, I think Barbossa is heavily underrated. He's actually my MVP of the whole trilogy.
He is very,
Me too.
very good, yeah.
Because in the second movie, Adria spotted this. I'm going to give her credit. I've never noticed this in my life. When they go to Calypso's little shack
Oh, yeah.
and offer Jack the monkey as a sacrifice to get the key, the information to where the key is, he runs off screen, and then they do a shot.
Yeah.
He's sitting there, and they're sitting by a pair of boots, but those are Barbossa's boots.
Mhm.
And then when he comes down at the end, when Barbossa shows up at the end of the second movie, I think is more hype than anything I've ever seen.
Yes,
I think it's bigger
I did
than one of
see
the
that one
Avenger
in
moments.
theaters, I think. And when he came down, I was like, what?
Yeah.
How is he? Where did he?
We were so
not
amped.
expecting that at all.
Even though we've seen it 4 or 5 times. When he came down yesterday, I was amped.
Yep. Because it gives you that hope that you're like, oh, a third movie's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to get some more of this.
Because she was all like, oh, you wish to go to the end? The 7 seas are going to need a captain. And then he comes walking down and
like,
he
who
bites,
could
the,
they
he
possibly
bites
have?
the apple like in the first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except
So
then it's
sick.
real.
Yeah. It was so sick. Barbossa, underrated. Definitely one of the MVPs.
Absolutely.
Almost
I really like
Jack
his
is awesome, but I almost
voice
like
too.
him more than Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His
voice
McShane's
is cool.
delivery, the way he does everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very exaggerated pirate.
Yes. I think most of the pirates are very theatrical and exuberant. Like when we see the Brethren Court and we have all of the different pirate lords.
Yeah.
I loved that bit just because you're like, oh yeah, different areas of the world have different pirates, and like there's the French one and there's like the ones from like Africa and the subcontinent. I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Even Jack's father.
Yeah.
I think,
oh yeah.
even
Captain
though he
Teague.
has like 3 lines.
Yeah.
When he shows up, you look at him and think he is definitely the leader of this whole clan.
Yeah.
You know, like he looks like he's been the pirate lord for a while.
He's a keeper of the code.
Yeah. Did you know he's a musician?
It's Keith Richards.
Yeah.
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 I didn't know.
I'm
I
like,
didn't know
he
music
is
growing
definitely,
up.
he's a pretty well-known musician.
Yeah. I didn't know music growing up, so like
I knew
just
that.
thought
Yeah,
was
that
a
he
cool
was
looking pirate.
before
But
the
after
movie
this
came
movie,
out.
like I watched it again, I said, "Oh, that's kind of neat."
Yeah.
I like how they kind of did make him look like he'd be related to Jack.
Yeah.
It's subtle enough, but you're like, oh. I also love that he has the red, like the admiral's coat. It reminds me of. I'm like, oh, that's Captain Hook.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like that's
yeah.
this world's Captain Hook, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good the costume design in these movies.
Yeah. I
Very
was just gonna
good.
get to that.
Yeah.
Like I could not pinpoint a favorite outfit because they're all amazing. You know everybody without seeing their faces.
Yeah, but what they did for Sparrow to just make that an iconic look.
Oh yeah.
That, yeah, like you said, you can tell just from the silhouette, like even just the little stuff on his headband. Like it's a small thing that somebody made up. It's not like they had a book they were reading that said, and this is what he looked like. They created this iconic costume out of just generic pirate stuff, and it's so like specific to him. His fixation with the different hats, like
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Yep.
I love when he asked, who's his main guy?
Gibbs.
Gibbs. He asked
Yeah.
Gibbs, he's like, you can throw my hat. And when they won, and he's like, now you can go get it.
Get it?
Gibbs is
and
a
the
great
second
character.
one, Gibbs is really good. Yeah, I was glad when they brought him back and expanded on him. He was really good.
Yeah.
The touching on the hats one more time, the scene in the second movie where they have the brawl at Tortuga,
In Tortuga,
and he's changing
yeah.
a million hats, that was so good. And that's just such a good example of like the physical comedy that they had in the whole series, but especially that movie. I remember it a lot, where it's like he's not doing anything per se, it's just him looking at it, but it's just like the physical way that he interacts. He puts it on the guy, as you were, like they
Yep.
toss him overboard. It's just
I love that was a like mini sub adventure for Jack because he lost his hat at the beginning in that
yeah.
whole movie. He's trying to find a replacement.
until he finally gets his original back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because it spits it out at the end of the second before he gets eaten, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. So he shakes it off, puts it back on.
Beastie.
Beastie. Davy Jones, I want to touch on a couple of his moments. I think one of the most satisfying, other than how he looks, there's a moment in the movie where he does, after he says
I
a
know
line,
you're
he
talking
goes,
about, yeah.
Yes.
I don't even know what was so satisfying about that. Because he's CG, they made that look too clean.
Yeah.
Like it was too good of a pop. And I was like, okay, he's a real person.
Yeah.
And there was another part where they were trying to find Will, and he asks the crew, like, did they find him? And then they say, oh, boy must have been claimed by the sea. And he goes, I am the sea.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what a line. What a line.
So good.
The telescope scene is another one of my favorites.
Oh, that one was so
I
good. Yeah, when
love
he
that
teleports.
scene. When he's looking
Yes.
through the Jack's looking through the telescope, and Davy Jones looks right back at him, and then the camera moves the telescope down, and he's right in front of Jack.
Yes.
I think it's so
Yeah, that
cool
was
how he
so,
can like
so good.
move any way he wants.
He's the sea.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
crazy. I love when he's coming through like the ships and he can like disappear, and
Yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
And especially in the third movie when he gets stuck in the wheel on the ship and Jack and he's
Yes.
spinning around on the inside and then he just comes through. But I think Davy Jones' crew also looks really good. There's a couple
Yep.
moments where like, yeah,
A
Davy
couple
Jones
where the
definitely
janky, and
stands
clearly
out.
they
Yes.
focus on him, but they look really, really well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
With very interesting designs.
Yes. Really unique for each of them.
I think we need to shout out Stellan Skarsgård.
Amazing.
Yep.
He crushed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the third movie, he didn't have a lot in the third movie, but when he was there, I love the scene when we find him in the ship, like he's part of the ship,
Yes.
and he has amnesia.
The barnacles all over it.
He remembers Will, but then
Yep.
he goes back into the ship and like it wipes his memory.
Yeah.
But even the scene at the end, like when he saves his son, the whole he anytime he's on screen, the man delivers.
He does.
Like,
I mean, that's why
like
you
no
get
one else.
someone like him for that role, because he always delivers when he's
I
there.
couldn't imagine the makeup process because he was definitely makeup, right?
Yeah, his was physical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you get 30 seconds of him at the end as a regular human.
Right.
And it was like, well, the man earned his paycheck.
Yes.
Oh,
he did.
yeah. I feel like having smaller roles delegated to really seasoned actors, it pays off at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because he has very few lines, but they need to be delivered with a lot of passion, and they need to be very convincing. Especially the second movie when he's playing the dice game.
I love
That part
scene.
was really, really well done. Yeah.
Like the realization on his face of, his son just lost, and then he
when he has
wagers
to-
in.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "No, you fool! Like, I did that on purpose."
This was,
to find out where the key is.
Yeah, but he wagers in before the game starts.
That's true.
Like,
Oh, that's
just
true.
to get in.
Both drop their
he
dice.
wagers to just
Yeah.
get in the game because he doesn't want to take the
That's
chance
right.
that Will will.
That's
will
right.
lose.
That's right.
And then, when
he's
he
like,
realizes he has to lose on purpose.
yeah. It's just it's so convincing.
So because he lost, he took Will's bet.
Because he matched
I bet the
Will's.
same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like he doubled down on the bet.
Gotcha.
But just to back up for half a second on that, when Will calls out Davy Jones, that scene of like everybody stops and Davy just shows up, so cool.
It is so good. I accept.
Yeah.
Challenge.
Man, you can't say enough good things about how well they performed in these movies.
I know.
And I love after Will Turner, he goes to find Davy Jones sleeping on the piano, and he's trying to like that one tentacle had to have been real.
That's
right?
what
That
I was just
probably the only
thinking when I
practical
watched it.
tentacle.
I'm like, that's got to be practical because it's too well integrated for that to have been CG. Like, it
had weight to it. Like,
It probably was guaranteed.
Yeah.
But then how would you have? He wouldn't have been able to like felt that weight of his arm, right? Lifting,
I don't know, but yeah, for him to just lift his hand like this, it wouldn't have seemed like he was really lifting something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was really well done. However they did it.
Crazy. I think amongst my fear of the sea, the Kraken scenes, the first shot of the Kraken, when they don't really show up, they just show the boat kind of just disappearing. It looked okay.
Right.
Out of all the special
set
effects,
the
I think that
tone
was the weakest.
Yeah, it was very effects heavy. It was clear it was CG, but you got the idea that there was something that could destroy a boat
that quick,
like that in half a second.
Yes. Yeah.
But I loved the idea of not really seeing the Kraken. You only get to see part of its tentacles and how they took it out, and they thought it was gone, but then it just came back and just enveloped the whole ship. Oh, the Kraken's so cool. The only thing I would say,
with prejudice, like when he comes up and he angrily attacks all of the cannons after, it's like, yep,
that's right.
It goes through the bottom of the boat because that's where it felt damage.
Yeah.
That it actually thinks. The only thing I would say is when they told us the story in the third movie, how Beckett told Davy Jones to kill the Kraken.
Yeah.
I wish we would have seen that because before I didn't remember how the third movie went until we saw it on that island, when they showed up and saw the dead Kraken, which was really cool. I wish we might like seen Davy Jones kill his beast.
Right.
That would have been a cool shot.
Such a long movie. And that's the scene you're going to cut.
Yeah.
Like
we didn't need to be an extravagant thing. Just maybe like open it up with that scene.
You could see that little emotion, like when he would do, I think when he saw the dress, like when you see that facade break for half a second and then he gets even harder, it could have been like that. And then like steely, like fire or whatever, like just so that there is still a little bit in there and this is hurting him to destroy the beast, but he's doing what he has to because he's now a prisoner as well. Like,
it's like when he hears Calypso's name, he's just like all flustered and like, it's hard for him. yeah, I would have liked to seen just a little bit of that of
I
him,
agree.
how he would have done that. Like
Right.
he's the sea, but how would he have conquered the Kraken?
Yeah,
You know,
like,
that would have been cool to see. But
Well, it's cool even
Yeah.
to think that he was the one that taught the pirate lords to seal away Calypso. So there's definitely, he's not your average pirate, even without being Davy Jones as we know him. There's way more to the things he's learned over the years in his experience. So, you know, is he some sort of like, is he magic? Is he like, what's going on here?
Mhm.
What other things has he delved into?
because Calypso did say he didn't fulfill his bargain, which is why he looks the way he does. Like he
Right.
stopped caring about helping
He
the
didn't
souls get
ferry
to
the
the
souls. Yeah. Yeah. So
I
it's
love
like
that scene when they're seeing. Oh, when Elizabeth sees her father.
yeah.
Man, she delivers. I feel like they cast her because she's so good at like the pain
Yeah.
and screaming and like delivering that like traumatizing fear
Yes.
aspect. But when she sees her father, he delivers that scene as well.
He does.
And
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
all the souls is so cool. But I like the what I want to touch on is I thought it was way earlier in the movie, but when they do the up is down,
Yes.
I love that shot. When it's straight across, and then the boat's underneath and you see the sunrise. But I thought that they saw the green, like I forgot that they went over a waterfall. I thought they had the flash both times, but it's cool that they did it just once because they built it up as such a rare occasion.
Right. So my understanding of it was if a soul returns to the land of the living, there's a green flash.
Yes.
They did the flash at the end when Will is leaving on the Flying Dutchman. And I was like,
no, did it. They did it when he came back.
Well, they did it, but yeah, they did. Like in the end credit scene, right?
Yes.
They did it when he left too. I was paying attention to that because I was like,
I thought he just went underwater.
No, it was a flash and he disappeared. And I was like, that's not. I think they just wanted to do it for the visuals. Yeah, I was like, forget whatever.
Technically, his soul is leaving
just looks cool.
the earth, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, oh, whatever. It looks cool. I'll forgive it.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
That's an artistic choice.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
He's a rare soul.
Yeah,
Will
but you're
Turner
right.
is a
They
rare
did it.
soul.
They did it when he came back the 10 years later.
Yeah,
at the end,
which makes sense.
Right.
Speaking of special effects and practical, the scene when they're blowing up the Endeavor.
Oh,
when the Commodore's walking down the staircase. I know it was all CG.
Yep.
But like the fact that they built in pieces of him that would bounce off of him as he was walking. The staircase was real, but everything else was kind of blowing up. They talked about it on Corridor Crew.
Yes.
But that scene is so iconic.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Because he was like, what are we going to do? Because the Dutchman came back after Will was killed and came back. And then they just basically sidelined them both and they went through
Black
the middle.
Pearl and the Dutchman on either side of the Endeavor blowing it up.
It's so sick.
And like
so
all the
cool.
wood is just like splintering and the staircase just poofs out of existence because it gets destroyed.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And then to cap it off with another great shot of him in the water when he splashes and falls on that
on the East India
flag.
Trading Company flag.
Yeah.
So
it was
good.
a great shot. So many good shots in these movies. And this director, he hasn't done a lot.
I was trying to think of that when I was watching them. I'm like, I don't remember seeing this guy's name on anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did like one movie or two after this. He did Rango, but that wasn't well done.
Yeah, that's not.
Oh, that's what Johnny Depp. Yeah. As
And
the
with
lead.
animation.
After Pirates, I
Yeah.
feel like he's like, I'm hanging up my hat. This is
Yeah.
because he didn't do the other two. He only did the first three.
No.
The what? No. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Sorry. There's only 3 Pirates movies.
Yeah,
We're talking about.
he did all of the
wasn't a
Pirates
fourth.
movies.
All 3 Pirates
Full
movies.
trilogy. Yeah.
Although they did plan at the end of the movie, they did say they talked about the Fountain of Youth. So like they do plant the seeds, you know?
Or did they just say, what can we do for a 4th movie? You know what they mentioned? Fountain of Youth. Let's do one on that.
Could
Right.
be. Yeah.
We'll get mermaids and it'll be great.
Nick, you saw the 5th, right? Did
I saw both.
Did Will
saw
ever
both.
come back? Just his son, right? Because his son's in the 5th one.
I think so. Yeah. I honestly, I saw each of them once
Yeah.
like 4 and 5, and I don't remember them very much at all.
I only think I saw parts of 4, but I didn't even try with 5 because
Yeah.
I think you saw it opening weekend and you told me not even to bother.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
don't do it.
No,
No,
but
it
it's definitely a
doesn't.
trilogy.
Yeah, well, it doesn't capture the magic of the first 3, and I haven't seen the third one since it probably came out because I wasn't too fond of it back then. Watching it this morning totally changed my mind. I feel like this is a trilogy that can be watched over and over again to full enjoyment.
Yeah.
The magic was gone after that. 4 and 5 felt so empty. There was glimpses of that adventure. They tried to get some of the same beats of, new ship, new captain, new villain, right? But it was with Blackbeard or whatever. And it's like, oh, cool, infamous pirate. Let's expand on him. It didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And
it felt just forced.
yeah. And
Because they tried to give him powers, right? It also looked weird because didn't he have like the hair flowy thing?
that
His hair was
was
always moving.
that was Benicio del Toro as I forget his character's name. That was number 5. So he was like ghost / barnacles. It was a mix of the Aztec
first
curse
two.
and Davy Jones. It was really strange, and it looked half as good as Davy Jones.
Yeah.
It was really sad.
I mean, anytime they do hair like that, it looks so
It's-
unrealistic.
Yeah.
I don't know why they thought let's do that the whole movie.
And I feel like the essence of Jack was lost. They took the slapstick goofiness of Jack from the first 3 movies and ran with that and forgot that he was actually like as mad as he is and as flying by the seat of his pants he does have some kind of plan. There's always he's always thinking a couple steps
try
ahead.
and do something. Yeah.
Yeah. And in these ones, he was not that. He was kind of the butt of every joke. So you're like, oh, that's not the same character.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's only 3.
Yeah, only 3. Circling back to number 2 for a second, when we were talking about the stunts and the choreography, the wheel, the fight on the wheel
Oh yeah.
in number 2.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was at the beginning of the movie. Like, remember we were talking
That
about
felt
the
like
scene
it
on
would
the
be
island?
the opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But that scene, the fighting on there is so... They took what they did in the first movie and just like, how ridiculous can we make and cool can we make this iconic scene? But they also would have been dead. I'm just letting you know that right
yeah.
now.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as soon as Jack got hit by the wheel, but
Yeah.
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 But it did look cool.
It looked
It was
so
just
cool.
close enough to reality that you're like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe that could work.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they did film that practically because they also talked about that on Corridor Crew.
Yeah,
That's
like
so
you could
cool.
tell, especially the shots where it was like fixed to the wheel and rotating.
Yeah.
That's when you could tell, like, yeah, they did this.
Stunt guys, let me tell you, they're delivering. on all
Unsung
these.
heroes.
Unsung
Yep.
heroes.
That to me is true Disney magic, that scene. Because it's so fantastical, but at the same time, you still feel like it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved it.
But I agree with you, Brian. I definitely thought that part took place at the beginning. And I really confused those 2 island parts. Like, I think in my head, I just thought it was all one big thing.
Section, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then Davy Jones's crew was also there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they were off the island, I was like, wait a minute. So that doesn't happen now? But another point I want to bring up before we dive into the finale of number 3, the 40-minute masterpiece that is the Cyclone of Death, is how do you feel about Calypso?
Oh, yes. Good.
Because I feel like as crazy as all the special effects were, this was the one thing people were talking about that was, why did they choose to do it this way?
Yeah.
Just make her grow
Right.
to unleash her?
I don't really remember that part as much because I haven't watched the third one in a while.
So they collect the 9 pieces of 8 and they do
So
a
cool.
little spell. Yeah. And this is to unlock her from her body, her human body, to unleash her like full power. And all that happens is she's bound up by a bunch of ropes and she grows to like the height of the mast on the sailboat.
But is it still the same actress playing
It
her?
is.
Yes.
It's still
okay.
her. She just has this like really deep voice now, this echoey voice, and then she explodes into crabs. And
Yeah, I
that's
don't
it.
And then
remember
goes
that
into the
right
sea.
now.
And then goes into the sea.
Okay.
So
Did you also notice the ropes were growing?
yeah,
I was like, what?
I was like,
this wouldn't make any
no!
sense.
That was like the one thing I was actually upset about. I'm like,
Yeah.
of all of the details that are paid attention to, the ropes are growing.
The ropes
And
also
I'm so
grow.
sad.
Yeah.
I do like that Barbossa's piece was the eyeball
Yes.
of the two little pirates.
The guy, yeah.
The two
They're
pirates.
henchmen,
Yeah,
yeah.
the henchmen.
The
I
little
love those two
comedic
guys.
relief, yeah.
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 Now, I thought about that today. I had a feeling you were going to ask us about that because I too was on the bandwagon of that's it. Like what happened to ever-changing form, sea creature, goddess of the sea, awful and terrible, monster? What is Calypso?
They Ursulaed her.
Right. Right. So, and then I thought, well, what could they do? What could they do in this world that would actually feel realistic, that would feel grounded enough? And I feel like time constraints may have been a factor because what they did, it looked good enough. And it felt like watching it today, I was like, okay. Oh, okay.
It's passable. Like
It's
their decision was
passable.
passable.
What I would have hoped for after thinking about it a little bit, I wanted her to be. Remember in Moana when the grandma becomes like the stingray or
Yes.
the big ray, something like that. I wanted her to become
Magical.
not necessarily glowing, but just a big sea creature,
Yeah.
and that would be it.
Do you think you would have accepted the fact if like she just turned into Ursula?
Crab. Oh,
Like she just
Part sea
part
creature,
sea
part
creature.
person.
I think I would have accepted that
I think
because
that
I would have been
made
okay with that
more
too.
sense.
because what do crabs have to do with? Because they went to the sea, but how did she control the weather?
Right.
I know the sea has a lot to do with the weather,
Yes.
but we never saw her do anything after that. Like how the crabs managed to.
Right. The only time we see crabs is the two lockets that they have, and in
At the beginning of the
locker.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That was a cool scene.
yeah,
Yeah.
the little rock crabs. But I know I don't know enough about like pirate and sea
Pirate
lore
lore and
to know if that was actually something relevant or they're just like, I don't know, we got to do this, make her big.
Yeah. I do love in the locker when Jack's talking to himself, like there's 50 of him on the ship. That's so well done.
Yep.
And then when he's talking to himself in Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman,
yes.
that was so cool.
It was cool that they actually changed the lighting on the two of them that were talking to him. They were super lit up and
Yeah.
kind of blown out, just like they were in Davy Jones' locker.
I think that was also to help identify the real one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I love the one in the ship where he
With the
peels it
brain.
off with the brain. Everyone don't
licks it.
move. Everybody don't move. I lost my brain.
Yeah.
But how do you guys feel about the 40-minute finale? Because watching all three back to back, this finale was off the charts.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was overdone. Like it didn't feel like it was too long. I felt it was absolutely necessary for what they built in the first two and the hour and 45 minutes of politics and world building they had to justify to get to this point. I was like, if you're going to do it, you got to finish off the trilogy like this.
I agree. I feel I was surprised at how long it was because I forgot that I'm getting into a 40-minute finale here. But like I had mentioned to you before we started chatting, was all of the loose ends got tied up. There was no unresolved story. Every minute of it felt like it was well spent. And I thought, they're not done yet. There's still some left to do. And then you see the armada of the East Indian Trading Company coming at them at the end. And you're like, oh yeah, we got one more big scene after the cyclone and the whirlpool. So, and I think that set piece was good. It was tense. We were kind of racing against the clock. We were going into the whirlpool. There's storms overhead. And then we even had the crossing of the mast. So they're almost, they're entangled now. So even though it was long as heck, there was always some urgency to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I thought made it really pass by quickly.
And they choreographed it like a pirate's fight. Like everything, you know, Jack's always flying around, or like there's chaos on the Black Pearl.
Yes.
And what else would you have done? Because you have all these fantastical characters, but to finish the movie, the trilogy, on conquering the sea.
Yeah.
Right? As a salesman.
A sailor.
A sailor.
That's what.
Salesman.
He's not buying or selling anything, but he is going to.
Have I got a ship for you?
Ship for you.
He can fit
The
1,000 souls on this bad boy.
Black Pearl. But yeah, as a sailor, like pirates, their thing is to conquer the sea. So if you can conquer Davy Jones in the sea,
Yeah.
the Commodore, what is he going to do? Why do you think he didn't do anything? He didn't say launch the fire. He can't win.
There's nothing
Exactly.
to do. Yeah.
The Black Pearl just survived a hurricane. Like they steered out of the most terrifying circumstance the sea can give you.
Exactly. You can't give them a better send off in a more modest way, because it wouldn't be true to Barbossa or to Jack or even to Davy Jones. Like, there's such big characters. You can't just have them fight on a beach.
Yeah.
And one stabs the other.
And then you're
No,
done. Yeah.
you need the like you said, swinging from the masts. You need jumping from ship to ship. You need some deception. You need all of that. You need the cannon fire. You need
chaos.
the storm. Yeah. It all has to be there.
And the wedding.
And the wedding, of course.
I love the wedding.
Yep.
Barbossa, again, MVP.
Yes.
So,
I'm a little busy at the moment. We're gathered here today. As he's fighting up. I love the shot of him doing the sword between his legs.
Yeah.
Everything was great about it. But I want to ask, my hot take.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
To cap off this movie.
Yep.
It's not, it's just a question.
Oh, okay.
Because it has to do with Davy Jones.
okay.
And it has to do with Will becoming Davy Jones. How come we can see Davy Jones on the sea? They can interact with him, go on his boat, but the end credit scene, she doesn't get to see Will for 10 years. Like, I know he can't come on land for 10 years, but why couldn't she just go see him on the sea?
Because he's essentially working.
Right. So is Davy Jones.
He broke that promise, though.
Oh. Okay.
That's why he looks tentacly.
Right.
He was like, the love of my life abandoned me after 10 years of me doing what she asked me to do. She didn't show up. F this. I'm gonna go be mad and pout and kill everybody on my own.
Yeah, and he's taking souls versus the job isn't to claim these, attack these ships and steal people's souls and make a barter with them to work on his crew. He's not. Yeah, he's
stuck in the world between worlds.
He's a double pirate. He's
Gotcha. Because I watched all three back to back, so it was like, why couldn't she just see him?
Yeah,
because Davy Jones was around, but then I forgot about that point because I watched 9 hours of Pirates.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of pirates, but
I feel if she'd gone on the boat with him, she would have died, or she would have been enslaved, or what. You can't just willingly hang out on there while he's crossing back and forth, sort of thing.
Yeah,
and I think it's also more of the symbolism behind it is his. The Flying Dutchman, like the Flying Dutchman needs a captain, but the captain can't have his heart. It needs to be somewhere else, and it can't be with the ship.
Yeah,
and it's with her, and she can't be there too.
I know they mentioned that you can't raise a child on the Dutchman. Yeah, but it was just the fact that you can't for one day, a year just pass by him or something, Yeah, but I guess that makes sense because Davy Jones broke the rule.
He wasn't actually doing his job.
I mean, you could probably.
I'm sure there's
skip
ways
the guideline, use it as a guideline,
not
and
be
she can take a boat and be like, "Hey,
go beside and wave."
that can happen.
Yeah. He did the kid did look like Orlando a little bit. You believe that was his son.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it was a nice. Adria loves when he shows back up.
Yeah,
Will Turner as the Dutchman captain, and he's got the scar on his chest with the bandana. She's like,
Yep.
whew.
Yeah, he's like all
Yeah,
sweaty.
it's a little
The whole
steamy.
time we were watching him, I was like, why does he always golden?
Yeah, no,
He's
like me too,
glowing.
Adria.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's always glowing. Even Keira Knightley, they're always glowing.
Yeah.
The lighting, and they always make sure they're looking crisp.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good deep dive into pirates. I
was.
loved watching them again. It's been a
Yes.
while, and I forgot how iconic they really were.
Yeah. Definitely going to be on my rewatch list.
Add them to the rotation.
Yeah.
For sure. So, Ian, I want to thank you for hopping on today.
Thanks for having me,
to,
guys.
To agree on parlay.
Yeah. Aye. Parsley?
Parsley.
Parsnip.
Pars. I also love the two Commodore guards. They're back and forth
they're
every
so
time.
funny.
They call back to the first movie and the third movie, and
Yeah.
Jack took the heart. That was also good. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for listening. Comment below which pirate movie is your favorite. If it was something
2,
you
3.
Yeah.
something you grew up with. We don't talk about 4 and 5.
No.
So we don't even want to hear those comments. But yeah, let us know if you enjoyed the podcast. Let us know. This has been 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Brian.
And I'm Nick.
Drink up me hearties, yo.